All right, friends, so here I am, and it is time to continue talking about World War II. So, you remember that the last time we were in this PowerPoint, we were looking at this slide because Germany had invaded Poland. And England had said to Germany, if you invade Poland, we're going to have war on you. So, what happens in America? All right, so how did we finally get to be a part of the war? So Winston Churchill, he's the Prime Minister of England, he calls up President Roosevelt on the phone and he says, we need help. We do not have enough of the supplies that we need. We do not have enough men. And Roosevelt is very much, FDR, he is saying, my Americans, we believe in isolationism. We don't want to go to war. We have just gone through the Great Depression. We've just come out of the Roaring 20s. Our people have had a tough time. We want to just be. But he feels very badly for the people of England, and he is a good friend with Mr. Churchill. So he ends up setting up the Lend-Lease program, where he is going to send military supplies to Britain that they need. They didn't ask for payment of these things. So you can see in the picture, this was going to be small planes and jets and guns and all types of weapons, all military supplies except for men. The United States still is not being involved. We're still not sending our men overseas to fight in World War II. Not yet. It kind of bothers the American people, though, because we're thinking, oh, we're sending them stuff. We've been paying, our tax dollars have paid for this stuff. We're probably going to be going into the war next. So they definitely were right about believing that. But it actually wasn't England or Germany that brought us into World War II. All right. Japan had had great military success in the early years of World War II. Remember, they believed in militarism. The emperor really wasn't in charge. It was Tojo. It was the military leader that was over there telling them exactly what they needed to do. Japan very much wanted to be a world power. They wanted to be much bigger than they were. They wanted to control China and they wanted to control Southeast Asia. And the U.S. just didn't agree with them taking over other countries. They wanted them to be content with what they had. Obviously, that's not what's going to happen. Okay. So, the United States placed a ban on all things like oil and scrap metal trade with Japan in order to try and get them to stop conquering other countries, all right? So we're just going to kind of make it hard for us to trade goods with them. It angered Japan, who relied heavily on imports because it's an island. So they're not going to have a ton of land space, a ton of natural resources. That's why they wanted to take all of this in orange over. They wanted to control it so that way they had more space for their people. They had more natural resources. But we were kind of in their way. We were standing in their way, all right? So Japan decided to bomb Pearl Harbor in the United States, which is a part of Hawaii. They knew that this would heavily weaken our naval force. We had a ton of our Navy huge boats there, all right? And so they knew that if they bombed Pearl Harbor and they sunk all of these ships, all of these naval ships, and all of these men, that it would greatly weaken us before we even were part of the war. So on December 7th, 1941, Japanese planes bombed United States Naval Base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. It was very early in the morning when they brought these bombs in and dropped them, and as you can see, boats were sinking. It was a surprise attack, right? The naval base was not, most of them were not even awake and up and moving yet. They were not prepared for the attack, and it took them a little bit to fight back. There are 3 very good videos for you to watch about Pearl Harbor that I want you to watch, and if you have any questions, you can send them to me. Here are some pictures from that day. You can see the wreckage, you can see the smoke, you can see that it was just completely devastating to our country. You can see as it started happening, they were like, okay, we got to take care of some things, we got to find a way to fight back. You've got nurses and you've got men working hard to try to defend this little island. Obviously, this is some of the wreckage in another video. And more than 2,300 American soldiers, sailors, and civilians were killed. It was the worst attack on the U.S. soil the world had seen yet. Okay, so obviously, this many people lost their lives. This much of our military and our planes and our ships have been destroyed. It is time for us to go to war. We are angry. We are mad at Japan. So we are going to join the side of the Allies. Okay, so on December 8th, 1941, FDR signed a declaration of war against all of the Axis powers. So that's going to be Japan, Germany, and Italy, right? So you can go and you can see the USS Arizona, which was the biggest ship that sunk in Pearl Harbor. You can see outline of the ship under water here, and then there is a memorial here that you can get rowed out to and or going out to on a little boat, and you can see that little memorial if you were to go to Hawaii today. There's another picture of a memorial. Why do you think Japan chose to attack the base at Pearl Harbor and not another location? Remember the map, guys. Remember that Pearl Harbor is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and they had a much easier time of getting to Pearl Harbor, and also because they thought that we would never see it coming. And in some ways, they were right. At the beginning of the war, Germany and Russia, which was the Soviet Union, agreed not to attack one another because they both wanted to expand their country. So this is kind of the next step. We entered, and then this is what happened next, right? So Germany and Russia had been friends. So this is going to be Hitler and Stalin, right? But in June of 1941, Hitler broke his agreement and invaded the Soviet Union. So you can see him just kind of stabbing in the back saying, "Forgive me, comrade, it seems such a good opportunity." So remember, Germany is now invading more people. So Stalin, he's upset because he's just been invaded, and so he's going to go to the Axis side. The Allied side, excuse me. The U.S. and Great Britain were not friendly with the Soviet Union, but they decided to help one another to defeat the Axis powers. So basically, we're saying, we don't really like what you're doing in Russia. We don't really like the way you're treating your people, but we've got to defeat Germany and Japan and Italy. So if you want to be on our side and you want to help us, then I guess we can be friends. You can see here, this is your three leaders that I've been talking about. This is FDR, you've got Winston Churchill, and you've got Stalin sitting together at a war meeting. The U.S. helped the Soviet Union by giving them supplies of trucks, radios, boots, and canned meat to help feed their army, which you can also see would feed some of their children. The U.S. and the Soviet Union were allies, but they were not very friendly. Why did they choose to help one another? Well, it's just kind of like what we said. They actually needed to win the war. They didn't want Germany or Japan to actually win. We needed to win, right? So we thought more men, more people, the better chance we're going to have to win. Okay? All right. So no notes from this video today. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and we will talk with you soon.